It'll go away automatically, or you can press pound. Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. Today we'll be talking about Canvas. This is our Canvas Confidence session. It's going to be a beginner-friendly session, talking about how to get started with your course in Canvas. We'll be covering a lot of different topics in Canvas, and we'll save some time at the end for a question and answer. So if you can try and save your questions for the end, that'd be great. And we'll make sure to save time for that so we can answer whatever you want to talk about. But we'll be going through some slides here just to have an overview of the topics we'll be covering. And other than that, we'll just be going into Canvas and actually demoing and showing you how to do the things we're talking about. I'll be starting first. Thanks, Martine. And here are the four main areas we'll be covering. We'll be starting with course setup, talking about your homepage templates that you can use to set up your course. And other ways to organize your course. The next topic will be assignments, the difference between quizzes and assignments, how to use student view, and the different assignment settings. And then the next two topics Martine will be covering.
So we'll talk about some communication tools, how to engage with your students, and finally grading. So there's a lot of different ways we can grade. So we'll look at SpeedGrader, the grade book, and and then we'll have Q&A at the end.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any questions coming up. I just wanted to say first, before we get started, I'll be looking at the chat. So if anybody in the Zoom call has any questions, feel free to, or we'll try and hopefully save them for the end. But if you have any burning questions, feel free to mention them in the chat. We should be able to see them. But starting with course setup, we have two subtopics we'll be covering. First, setting up your homepage and looking at templates. So there are a few different options for setting up your homepage, but the first option is setting up the page itself, where you can customize the information that's shown. And that's what we have set up here in this demo course. So you'll see this layout. It's related to the second topic we'll be talking about, which is templates. We have a template here at the CTL, which you can find on our website, ctl.ok.ubc.ca. And you can upload that template in Canvas to create this homepage, the exact layout that you're seeing here. But your department may also have a template that you can upload. So since we're already on this topic of templates, I'll talk about templates first before we go over what the homepage is and how to set this up. So I'll actually want to show you guys first, if you don't mind. If you mind if I go to the CTL website? Awesome. So if we go to our website, I will show you where to, I'll show you where to find the template. So here under Learning Technology, under Teaching with Canvas, under Instructor Resources on our website, we have a course template. So if we go here, then it gives you step-by-step instructions on how to download and import this course template. This template is a .imscc file, and that's a file that's universal, or not entirely universal, but it's very common across different learning management systems. So if you have content in specifically Moodle, you can transfer that content over to Canvas, but most of the time these files are used for uploading content between Canvas courses or uploading templates like this. So we have one base template here at CTL. It provides a homepage as well as some assignments, some basic module structure, so you can start organizing your course. But it only provides starter content, so you can get started building from there. Again, there are steps on the website on how to specifically upload it, but I'll just show you briefly. You would go to the import existing content section here. When you're on the homepage, you'll find in the top right, or you scroll down on the left and you go all the way to the bottom to the settings page here. So then on the settings page, you'll see the import course content option, and you go there. And then from here, there's a few different steps, but you'll select copy a Canvas course, or sorry, Canvas export package for the .imsc file, and then you'll be able to upload the file that you got from our website. Once again, your department or faculty may have a template for you, so I'd recommend you speak with them first. But yeah, that's the basics of using templates. And next, we'll talk about the main benefit I find of templates, which is this homepage. So this homepage is exactly how it will look if you upload our template. It has some, I'll just check the chat quickly, actually. Oh, thank you, Riley, for sharing the URL there. Yeah, so it has some template areas where you can put in your information, and it just has a structure for you to follow with the information that students are looking for. Beyond contact information, TA information, and also some links to important things like announcements, discussion, stuff like that. The next important thing is the link to the course syllabus. There's also a starting link that can link to modules, but I think this is the next important point is where you would like to put your syllabus, and that will link to this syllabus section on the left. So I just like to put a pin in that. We'll talk about the syllabus just a little bit later on, but that's really the important other point that a lot of instructors asked about. But this is the homepage. And the technical part about this is that you actually have to set this up. If you upload the template, it will set this by default as your homepage. But if you are just logging into your Canvas course, you'll actually see this screen first as your homepage, which is the modules page. So modules are essentially just folders in Canvas. Students will also see this if you publish the module. So it's good for organizing content for them to see. But it's also the landing page by default if you don't set a homepage. So if we go back to the homepage here, I can show you how to set that. When you are on your homepage, you'll see in the top right here, choose homepage. And then you can select if you want to use pages for your homepage, or you can use the default course modules, or you can even have students land on the syllabus page or in the course activity stream. But the strange thing is that when you first log into a course without a template, you'll have to create a page first before you can even see that screen. So to do that, you'll have to go to the pages section, which should be at the bottom here. So on the pages screen, it will show your homepage by default, and you need to click here, view all pages, to view a summary of all the pages you have in your course. And then once you have created a page and published it, then you should be able to click on the three dots on the right, and you can add it as a homepage. This is what I currently have as my homepage, so I can remove it. If I click on another one, then we should be able to use that as our front page. So that's how you set a page to your homepage. And that should be everything for course templates and setting up your homepage. So I'll move on to the next topics. Quick look at chat. Awesome. Okay, so now we'll be talking about pages, or sorry, the rich content editor in Pages, and we'll go back to syllabuses or syllabi. Sorry. So in Pages, to be able to start editing content, you need to use the rich content editor. This is the same tool that you're going to be using in assignments, discussions, and quizzes to create content for students to view. And you can also use it in assignment questions to put in pictures, put in text, and as well as video. So if we go to edit a page, then you'll see the rich content editor open here. It's just this text box here with all these editor tools above it. So there's a lot of different options for customizing text. You can create tables, you can stylize it, but the other point is the ability to embed files. You can embed images and videos through Kaltura, and you can do that by using these drop-down menus up here. This drop-down specifically will actually use files that are uploaded to your course in the file section. This is a little bit confusing, so apologies for this. But this file section is in your course are videos and images, as well as PDFs or any other type of file is directly uploaded to your Canvas course. And that actually has a limit to it. You may run into, I don't know what the limit is off the top of my head, but it's only a few gigabytes. You may run into limitations with that. But images and video are uploaded through Kaltura, and they're stored in the media gallery and my media section. And you can add them. I actually don't see there's the icon, sorry. I had to click the three dots to make it appear because the window is a little small right now because of Zoom. But this colorful icon right here, this is how you can embed Kaltura content. So if you have any videos or pictures, you should try and upload them through there. Otherwise you may run into some storage issues, but also this is a little bit complicated. So feel free to reach out to us at the CTL help desk if you have any questions. Yeah, I will move on to the next subtopic, which is just syllabi. So I mentioned it briefly before, but there's actually a section in Canvas specifically for your syllabus. So I'll go back to the home page. So from here, we have a link in the template going to the syllabus tab, but you can also access on the left here. And this is just a default page that Canvas gives you where there's a place for you to upload your syllabi. And if we go to edit the page, it's the same thing as when we were looking at another page where you have the rich content editor. So you're able to link your syllabus here and you can add some content if you would like. But otherwise, it just shows a course summary for students on this page with a list of due dates, upcoming assignments and events. Yeah, so it's a pretty simple page, but students know where to find the syllabus, so I recommend putting it there. And the last thing I want to talk about actually that I realized I didn't add in my subtopics, but it's good to go over here, is you may notice some sections are have this eye icon. If I hover over them, it says disabled, not visible to students. So it's pretty self-explanatory that that's only visible to you and hidden from students, but the way that you change that is down in the settings tab. So you have control over this. The different sections in your course, you can change the order of the sections on the left as well as which ones are visible. There are a few that I think need to be visible by default. Otherwise, there's a lot of freedom here. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong tab. So once you go to the settings page, you want to go to the navigation tab, and then you can move sections around here. And you just need to make sure that you move sections to the top half of the list to make sure they're visible to students. And the key is you have to scroll all the way down and make sure you click save. I just wanted to mention that because I realized that wasn't in any of our subtopics, and it's fairly important. But that should be it for that slide. I'll just take a breather and take a look at chat. Awesome. Thank you, Riley. I appreciate that. Once again, feel free to, if you have any more questions, we'll follow back or follow up on them at the end of this. But next, we'll be moving on to modules and settings. So let me just actually slide here as well. So we briefly went to the settings page, but that wasn't actually what we wanted to discuss. Since we're already on the settings page, I'll continue talking about that first. So navigation is very important, but what we wanted to talk about in settings was opening your course early, and in general, just your course start date, because we've had a little bit of confusion over the last few terms with course start dates as we've gotten used to our new Workday student system. There have been some changes. Previously, courses started on the first day of the term, and then it changed to the first day of each course. So they were all starting on different days, and now that's been reverted. So courses should be opening in Canvas on the same day, if I understand correctly. But if you want to open your course early, then you'll need to go here to the settings tab in Canvas. So all the way on the bottom, on the left tab, or sorry, on the left menu. And then once you're in the settings tab, you want to scroll down to participation. So if participation is set to course, then you should be able to edit the values that are here. And all you need to do is just set a start date that's in the past if you want your course to open early. But UBC does not want you extending the start date, so you shouldn't leave your course closed beyond the default date. And also, they do not want you extending your course, but at the same time, they don't really enforce that. So yeah, the option is there for you to be able to edit start and end dates. Yeah.
So my Canvas course is already published.
Gotcha.
So does that mean that the students should be able to see it regardless of the course start date? Because
Fantastic
I
question.
did not know about the course start date.
They work in tandem, and actually, yeah, I didn't fully explain that. So thank you for asking that question. The start date and publishing work in tandems. They both have to both have to meet their qualifications for students to be able to see it. So it has to be published and it has to be past its start date. So if it hasn't passed its start date yet, then students shouldn't be able to see it.
Okay. Go to your settings, and then we can see what your start is set at.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so for your course, it's set to September 2nd, which is kind of the default date. So that means even though your course is published, students will not see it until September 2nd.
So that means if I send a Canvas announcement like welcome to the course before first class, please do this, they will not see it either.
They will not. So
Okay.
what I would do is I would open it as of today, for example, and then save that, and then students will be able to see your announcements early.
Okay, so I've been doing this for the past 2 years, sending an announcement before the course starts. I get an email in my own Outlook saying that a Canvas announcement has been sent out for the course, but actually the students are not seeing the announcement.
Likely. It may have
Unfortunately.
changed. Yeah, it might have changed when we moved to Workday. It might have worked a little different before, but now, yes, students will not see announcements before the course is.
And I would just add that it used to be instructors couldn't change that start date. So now instructors are able to open it themselves, but they used to have to contact us to start courses early. But at the same time, this information wasn't widely disseminated. Sorry if you weren't aware of that. I think a lot of instructors aren't aware that the start dates are there. But yeah, you can change that date yourself now. So yeah, you just need to make sure that date's in the past, and the students will be able to access the course as long as it's published as well. Thank you for that question. Is that everything?
Yeah, no,
Awesome.
thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is everything about course settings and covering publishing as well. That's really everything we want to cover on that topic. So going back, I believe it was modules. Yeah, so modules we talked about briefly. They're essentially just folders in Canvas. So they're your default homepage. But even if you don't use them as your homepage, they are very useful for structuring your course for students. Students, I think, often use this as a general overview of the course, a page where they can see everything that's in the course in one place. And it is just a good way to be able to structure content from top to bottom, so students see it in a progressive way. There's not much to talk about. I think just saying they are like folders is pretty self-explanatory. The only special and cool things is that you can use prerequisites and co-requisites, or sorry, prerequisites and requisites. So you can make it so that students only can complete a module if they get a certain score in assignments, or if they complete one assignment in a module, or if they meet another threshold like that. I'll show you here what that looks like. If we go to edit this module, then you can see we can add a requirement. And so that's what I was just talking about, where you can set a requirement for students to be able to complete the module. But the other cool thing is prerequisites. So actually, I think I may need to publish this to be able to see prerequisites. But anyways, you will see it on this screen. And prerequisites just mean that you can set other modules or other assignments need to be completed before you can complete this module. So you can make your course progress as students complete content. But otherwise, modules are just folders, essentially, where you're able to add, sorry, I'm struggling to find the X here. Modules are just folders. The only other thing to talk about is how to add content to them and what content you can add. And what content you can add is everything. You can add pages, you can add files, you can add assignments, you can add quizzes, you can add discussions. You can even add just text headers if you want to, if you really want to customize it. So they really are just folders. And this is the main menu where you can select the different content. You can also drag and drop files directly into the modules if you create a new one. Oh, you can also see here, this module has prerequisites. So this is where you'd be able to add a prerequisite. You can either make other assignments or other modules as a prerequisite. Here you can see you can drag and drop files as well into modules. But that should be everything. I would also say make sure that you publish your modules as well, because any content that's inside the module, even if it's published, it won't be shown to students in the module unless you publish the module. But otherwise, that is everything on this topic. I'm trying to remember. I think that's everything. So I'll hand it off to Martine here to talk about assignments.
You were doing this.
Never mind. Totally. Sorry. I just talked about so many topics. I thought I went through two there. So perfect. Yeah, we have one more main topic with a few subtopics here. Thank you, Martine. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is assignments. The first thing I really want to go over is the difference between quizzes and assignments. It's a little confusing in Canvas, but assignments is essentially an umbrella for all graded content in your course. So any assessments that are graded would be called an assignment in Canvas, because a quiz is actually technically an assignment in Canvas. So to make that clear, if you go to the assignments page, you'll actually see all of your quizzes listed here as well. But if you go to the quizzes page, you will only see actual quizzes listed there. The other things that are included in assignments would be graded discussions, but that is pretty much everything. So there's 3 different kinds of assignments, which are assignments themselves, which can have different kinds of submission types, either text, you can have no entry submission if you have a paper copy, or you can have a digital submission, either through an external link or by uploading some kind of file. Otherwise, the only 2 kinds of assignments are quizzes and graded discussions. I'm just going to take a moment and look at the chat. Thank you again, Riley. Really appreciate that. So continuing with assignments, I'm just going to take a look back. So we have a lot of subtopics I want to make sure I cover. The next thing is availability dates in assignments. And I also just want to take a look at settings in general. So if we go to create a new assignment, we'll see first the rich content editor. We went over that before. That's how you can set up the information before the student begins the assignment that will be shown at the top. You can embed images and video, but then down below you have all the different settings. So the first thing is just the points for the assignment. So if you do not set up percentage grade weighting, then this will directly be representative of your grade weighting. So you will need to take this into account when you're setting that up. I will show you in a second how to set up assignment percentage weighting instead, but this is where you do it otherwise. This next setting is the assignment group, which is where you can actually set up assignment weighting. This next box is the submission type. I talked about it briefly, where if you have a an in-person assignment or an assignment where there is no submission, you can click no submission and then manually put in the grades yourself, and students won't be prompted to submit anything. But there's a few different options if you do have a submission type in Canvas. There's online, which is going to be a few different types. Like you can either set file upload, uploading a link, or you can use an external tool to use something that is integrated into Canvas. Once you set it to online here, you can set the different files that are able to be uploaded, text entry, website URL, media recordings, or file uploads. I'll try not to get into the weeds with the rest because I think they're fairly self-explanatory, just with submission attempt types. Actually, I should mention group assignments. So a group assignment, if you set up groups in the people tab in Canvas, you can make it so that the assignment only has one submission per group. So if one student in that group submits, it will use your grading and that submission for all students in that group. And then, yeah, we have peer reviews, and you can also set up anonymous grading. So students won't see who did their grading. The last thing we want to talk about, and this is quite important, is the availability dates in the assign access section. So first things first, there's the assign to box. And this is where right now it's set to everyone. So everyone in the course will have access, but you can also assign to individual sections if you have multiple sections attached to your Canvas course, or you can attach individual people. But obviously UBC expects you to assign graded content to everybody in the course. Yeah, so if you are assigning to individual sections, then you should have multiple pieces of content for each. But the next important point in the assign access section is the due dates. So there's two different sets of dates here, the due date itself and then the availability dates. So the due date is self-explanatory. That decides when students will get late marks if you are allowing late submissions, or whether or not it will cut off submissions entirely. But the second part, the available from time and the until time, those are the availability dates. So students won't be able to see the assignment at all until it passes that date. And the due date and availability date work separately. So you need to make sure that the availability date is before the due date. Otherwise, students won't be able to see it and the due date will pass. So that's kind of the one complicated thing I find in the assignment settings. Otherwise, it's fairly self-explanatory. You can also create multiple sections. And if the DRC needs to come in and set up a new assignment time for students, then this is what they'll do. They'll go in and create a new section, and then they'll be able to add an individual student and then set individual times for them. So that's everything in assignment settings. Otherwise, it's just using the rich content editor. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. So yeah, I know some settings can be a little vague. We talked about group assignments, so that was the last thing I had under settings. Next, I want, great.
All right, so this is a question about the assignment availability date. So I have integration with Achieve. So the Achieve assignments are pulled from the Achieve platform. And in Achieve, I set the availability date to be 2 weeks before. So does that mean I need to separately set the assignment availability date again in Canvas, or will it also pull the availability date from Achieve?
I don't think it would pull the date. Either way, I'd recommend you check the assignment and see if those the availability dates match, but I don't think it would automatically. Maybe Martin, the thing is it through a learning technology integration, or did you manually upload those questions?
Is Achieve, it's a publisher?
Yeah,
content.
Yeah,
Macmillan. So yeah, I would definitely check. So the way they gave you like a packaged assignment, right? And you've uploaded it yourself?
So it's a platform that they go into. So it's linked to Canvas.
Okay.
So this is a link that takes them to the platform.
Okay, so maybe after we will have a look, so I can just see what they have and how it's integrating with Canvas. So we'll chat with you after, if that's all right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, so hand raised in chat.
Rob, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to note on the dates that I found it handy. If I run my available until date out past the due date, and then let's say it's a quiz and maybe there's a 10% deduction per day, then the Canvas just runs it out until the end of my available until date and takes the deduction off.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I tend to have the availability date much longer, especially I like to open it early just in case there's any technical things and these students want to test out, make sure they can access the quiz. So yeah, it's a good point for sure.
For sure. Thank you for letting me know about the hand raise, by the way. Awesome. Okay, well, I'll move on to the next topic then, which is just rubrics. So they're fairly straightforward. There's another section in Canvas for rubrics specifically, and this is where you can create one. So I'll just show you what that screen looks like briefly. But yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory what you can do with that. And then to use a rubric, you just need to go into assignment. I believe you just need to edit assignment settings. Apologies. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I was on the wrong screen. So if you go to so you can create rubrics in the previous section we were looking at, just on the left there. But if you go to an assignment, then once you've created a rubric, then you should see this button plus rubric on the bottom, not when you're editing the assignment, but when you just go to the assignment summary, and then you can add a rubric there and use that. So it will prompt you to create one, or you can click find rubric, and then you'll be able to choose one that you've already set up. And that's pretty much it for rubrics. Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward in Canvas, and they're pretty easy to use. The last thing we'll be talking about in assignments is the student view. And this is something we get a lot of questions about because it's a really cool tool in Canvas, but it's something that unfortunately isn't fully accurate. So if we go into an assignment, or really actually anywhere in Canvas, you should see this button in the top right that says view as student. So that's how you turn on the student view. And the place where it is useful often is when you're looking at an assignment. So if we go into an assignment and we view a student, so you can see exactly what the details and everything would look like from the student view. You can see there's a lot less details, obviously, the options to edit aren't there. This is also good for checking if availability dates are working, because if you can see when we go back outside of student view that we don't have any due or availability dates here. So because there's not an availability date that's in the future, if it was, it would be invisible to students, or not invisible, sorry, it would say you do not have access to this assignment if you tried to go into the student view. So it's a good way to test that. But I want to add the caveat that for Kaltura, which would mean pretty much any videos or images, we find it's really inconsistent. It will often say students don't have access to this when you go into the student view, and it's just plainly not accurate. So if you have any questions about videos or images being visible to students, just let us know and we can take a look. We can even add a test student for you to directly see what it looks like when we log in as a student. But yeah, 99% of the time there isn't an issue. It's just the student view being inaccurate. But yeah, it is useful to just check availability dates, I find. And also when you're on maybe the modules page or anything to see what your progression looks like when a student first opens the course. And the other thing to add is that when you go into grading your course and you've used the student view, you may see test student at the bottom of your grade book or in the submissions, and that's just Canvas's test student from the student view. So nothing to worry about. Yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, actually, I would just add that it's not just Kaltura, it's really any learning technology integrations. So if that textbook tool you were talking about, Raleigh, was integrated into Canvas, it probably wouldn't be accurate, but also Zoom is another great example of that. If you go into the Zoom tab, it will say, yeah, you won't have access or something like that because it's connected to the student account. Yeah, that's everything about the student view. Now is Martine's section. I think I'm accurate now. So if you guys have any further questions about those, we'll share our email at the end of this, but also we'll have some space for some questions.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the next communication tools. So these are pretty straightforward. I'm going to talk about announcements. They are a great way to message your students, give them reminders, just give them any heads up. And like we mentioned earlier, students will not see the announcements if your course is unpublished. So make sure your course is published, otherwise they're not going to see these announcements. So you'll see announcements here. Right now we have none. So you just go add announcement. and you can put in your topic. And it has the same rich content editor as Michael explained earlier, so you can embed images, videos, whatever it is you need. You can attach files if there's a reason you need to attach something. You can post it to individual students or individual sections or everybody. And you can actually allow participants to comment. So if you had some sort of introductory announcement, you can have students participate. They can comment if you would like. They can you can set times, so you can set them up in advance and then have them go out on a certain date. So pretty self-explanatory. Publish, make sure you publish them, and then you will see this is your announcement. I find they're really good for sort of reminders, you know, if there's content or an assignment coming up soon, it's good for reminders. Another way, yes, Ron.
Does that email students, or do students need to like open notification or allow notifications, or how does that work?
Yeah, so by default, it should email all students. However, students can change their notification settings and they can turn that off. So there's no guarantee that it will email students, but default setting is yes. So
I would just also add, doesn't the email, it's not the specific announcement content that's shared via email, it just lets them know that announcement has been posted in Canvas, and then they have to go into Canvas to actually see it. So it's a bit of a step of separation, but it still lets them know via email.
correct, yes. So I will probably get an email from that myself.
But I want to remind you, if you edited what you sent already, announcement, student didn't get the notification. So if you edited the announcement you have already sent, and then that means nothing.
Correct, yes. So if I go in and I edit this and update it, the updates will not be sent to
Yeah.
students.
But
So-
isn't there an option when you click save? A dialog box pops up and it asks you, should you send out a message, like an update? And you can choose to not send, but you can also choose to send. Like try clicking save,
Yeah.
like changing something and then click save, and then it says,
Yes, yeah,
Right
correct.
now they have. Also, one I did a couple years ago, I thought I correct something, but some students check later, they saw some notification. Some students checked the right way and they didn't get any.
I didn't know that option was there, so good to know.
But then
How did they fix that?
I
Yeah.
didn't do, but I complained once to CTL. But
Yeah, so it's just, yeah, we can't control student notifications and what they choose in their settings. So just be mindful that they may not know any new updates, announcements, to double check. There's other ways to communicate. It's an inbox. Where is it here in the settings? Oh, sorry, inbox. So this works the same as basically an email, but it's just within Canvas. So for example, I have this one from a student. So a student, I sent a reminder, I didn't get your submission, and the student responded back. It works the same as email, it's just within Canvas. And I'll briefly go over making a new message. You can choose, if you have multiple courses, you can choose which course you want to send it to. You can send it to individual students or the whole class. You can, again, attachments. You can even voice to text, and then you would send. So again, pretty basic. And another way you can, let's go back to the course. You can communicate with your students is discussions. They're basically just a discussion board. These are great for, like self-introductions. For example, this one, I made this one a graded discussion. So again, it's the same. You go into add a discussion, you can set it up. There's a lot of different options here. So discussions can be quite complex, but they can also be really simple too. So for example, this one, what is the That's kind of pie. I made this a graded participation worth 1 point, and students can reply. This person thinks pumpkin pie, they get 1 point. So students can reply to this is where it gets complicated. So you can thread discussion topics. So let's go into the settings here. So if you disallow threaded replies, this means you will have your discussion and each student will respond to it linear. If you allow threaded, it can go infinitely. So a student can reply, and then a student can reply to that reply, and then it can be buried in. So it can get complex. So I usually just allow, and then I find it much cleaner, easier to understand. And again, this is where you would choose if you wanted it to be graded. And yeah, so we'll move on from that because we're just mindful of time. And the next topic is grading. And this one is it's a big topic. So grading, do we have anything in chat?
I'll answer it.
Okay, great. So grading, we'll go into grades here. And this is your grade book. And it will show all of the assignments that you have in your course. And it will show, depending on how many sections and student groups you have, you can filter. So I find filtering is really helpful if you have multiple sections. Assignment groups as well. Michael, did you go over assignment groups?
I did not actually, sorry, yeah.
Okay, so let's go quickly look at assignment groups in your assignments.
I actually didn't, I briefly mentioned assignment weighting, so if
Okay.
you could be awesome, thank you.
Okay, so I recommend using assignment weighting. So for example, participation will be worth 10% of the total grade. Quizzes 20%. And so if you go into assignment groups weight, this shows all the different assignment groups that you have and what they're worth. This is a demo course. It's not set up correct. This should always be 100. And so that plays into the gradebook because it will separate each group at the end. So for example, okay, this is it. Sorry, my Zoom thing is popping up. Okay, so this shows all of the totals for the assignments. And then at the end, it's going to show the weightings. And Canvas is very smart in that it will do all the calculations for you, which I recommend. So for example, if a student had participation assignments here, it'll automatically calculate what 10% of that is for each group, and then it will give you the total at the end. This one's a little messy because we have a lot of demo assignments, but I find that's really, really smart. I like when it does all the calculations for you. I wanted to also talk about setting up your gradebook.
Yes, I have a question. So sometimes in the gradebook, you can see that some squares, some cells are different colors.
Yes.
What does that mean
Yes.
when they're different colors?
So let's look at the settings. You look at this gear icon here. Sorry, my Zoom here. If you go to view options, this is what they all mean. And you can edit these if you like. So if they're blue, that means the student has a late submission. If they are red highlighted, it means they haven't submitted at all. So you can edit these if you like different colors. But that's the default status color. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. This is the most important thing to look at when you are starting and setting up your course, the grade posting policy. So by default, grades are posted automatically. So as soon as something is graded, they're going to be posted and students will be able to see their grades. If you don't want that, you would want to change to manually post grades. So this will make it so you can do all of your grading, but then you have to manually send out the grades for the assignment. So for example, let's apply that. Oh, we don't have any grades there. Okay, so this one. this one was hidden. That's what this little eyeball icon means. So students can't see these grades, even though the assignment has been graded. So to push those out, you would click on options here and post grades. So you can post if you've made any updates. So say it's been posted before, but then you did an adjustment, then this is where you would choose. There's different options, but usually I would just choose everyone, post. And then you'll see the eyeball disappears and the students can now see their grade. So it's really up to your preference if you want students to see them right away, or if you want to sort of control when the grades go out. All right. Then I'm just looking at my SpeedGrader. So SpeedGrader, I find, so you can just manually enter grades. So if you have an essay, for example, and you've done your marking offline, you just go in and give the point, just like that. That's how you would grade. Or you can use SpeedGrader, which is sort of the more automatic. There's a couple ways to get to the SpeedGrader. You can get to it from here, from the assignment in Gradebook. So you would click on SpeedGrader, and that will bring up the SpeedGrader for that particular assignment. And this is where you will see your students. It's all sorted automatically by last name. The student doesn't have a submission, so it's a bit hard to show that, I believe. Okay, no, let's choose a different one. Sorry, my Zoom is in the way. Come on. Get out of the way. Okay, so we'll look at this one. Okay, so this student does not have an assignment, but this student did. Very good assignment. So they have uploaded, it's an essay file upload assignment. And this is where you can grade them. If you had a rubric, this is where it would appear. I think this is out of 50. I think this is an excellent response. So I'm giving them 50. You can write comments. So anything you wanted to comment on, great job. Very robust response here. And then you would submit. So make sure you submit, otherwise it won't save. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I have
Yes.
another question. You have the grades here set to manual, right?
Yeah.
Which means the grades won't appear until they're posted. But what about the comments, which you have submitted, right?
Those also will not.
Oh, okay, so they can only see the comments after you post the
Yes, correct. Yes. So this has been submitted. If you go back in, so this was the 50 out of 50. Let's update. Oh my goodness. And then we will see that it has been updated 50 out of 50. So it does a lot of the calculations manually. I find SpeedGrader the easiest way. Another thing I find SpeedGrader great for would be multiple choice. Let me just see. I think this one has multiple choice. Oh, maybe not. Sorry, which one has multiple choice? Maybe sample quiz. There we go. Yes. So if you have an assignment that has multiple choice, SpeedGrader will do most of the marking for you, which is great. You will see here, they got every question wrong. So SpeedGrader is automatically 0 out of 3. You can change this. So you can manually override. Say, for example, you think this question is maybe not fair. You can go in, change that so they do get the mark, and you would update scores. So now it shows over here, 1 out of 3. You can do that different ways. You can do it within the question here, whoops, or you can do it with fudge marks, which you can do negative or positive. That is usually used for if there was a technical or an error on the questions side of things. We want to just sort of negate that entire question. So you would give everyone a fudge point, update scores, and this will automatically show in the grade book. So they've got 1 out of 3 on the sample quiz. And that's where you see that here. So that SpeedGrader I find can be really, really simple. I don't think I have an example of a rubric, but this is where you would put in your rubric qualities here, and it will update and make the total mark for you. So how are we feeling about grading? Good. Okay, because we're pretty much at time here, but I know that was a lot. So we have a large portion here for Q&A. We're going to stop recording, but then we can answer any questions that you may have, because I know there's just a lot to be done with grading.
And I just wanted to add, I'm attempting to answer some questions in the chat here, but we have a couple maybe we could just discuss with everybody.
Sure.
The first from Catherine, thank you for this. We just clarified how to have your UTAs added. Just to clarify that, you should speak with your department and they should be able to add them to Workday Students. Sounds like they've already done that, so they should gain access automatically. The second question is Respondus Lockdown effective for in-class use? And I would say we do see instructors using Respondus in class. It's a commonly used tool on campus, and it is effective in the sense that it does achieve that goal. But what I would add is that it is the only option we have. It's the only invigilation software that doesn't break UBC's privacy guidelines by accessing student information. So it's the only option we have to use. And in general, we try to recommend to use other course design strategies to avoid needing to invigilate your students in class. But yes, to answer your question, it's the most effective option you have to invigilate in class. Next from Kathy Fitzgerald, we have, how would I transfer test bank quiz questions to Canvas? Martine, maybe.
Do you mean, Kathy, from another course that you have in Canvas?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
No, I was thinking we just purchased we were just using a brand new textbook, and the
Mhm.
textbook has test bank quizzes within the instructor's resources.
So the CTL doesn't do a lot of the publisher integrations. So I would probably direct you to LT Hub in Vancouver because they handle all the integrations. But I believe it would be similar to this. You go into settings and you import course content, depending on what the publisher gave you, I'd have to see. There's different content types. So if they've given you this type of one of these types of formats, probably it would be probably this actually. But it really depends on the type that they gave you, and then you would choose it here and then import. So I can't say for certain just because every publisher is different, so I don't know what they give you. Like yours, that for example is on its own separate platform, so they're all a little different. But we can definitely speak. If you email us at the help desk, we can look into that further and help you out with that.
So I'm just thinking, so it's not a common practice then, is that people aren't, it was something that I'm used to doing in my past, just transferring from the test banks. And I guess I'm just new to UBC, and I'm thinking from your response that it might not be something that instructors are using that much.
We don't see a lot of publisher integrations just because UBC does have policies against how much of publisher content can be used. I think it's like a 10% or something. I'd have to look into the policy. So it's not as common, but definitely instructors are using it. So another resource too that I always recommend is going to the library because they have online course reserves, which can pull in textbooks and things like that. So they are a good resource as well. I don't know if that would pull in test banks though, or content that way. So Yeah, I hope that.
Yeah. No, that's really, really helpful, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'll figure it out.
Awesome. Again, send us an email and we can look into it.
Yeah.
I think generally for the test bank, there's no way to copy it into Canvas. You have to think of choose the questions yourself and then manually enter the ones that you want into Canvas. I think that's what I hear colleagues are doing.
Okay, so that, yeah, that's could be really tedious then, for sure. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, it's because integrations are publishers are not always fully integrated with Canvas. They're all a little different. So, and some publishers we don't work with, or we just haven't worked with because they have to go through a process, a PIA process through Vancouver. So yeah, it's a whole big thing. Macmillan is a common one though, so we do use Macmillan. So I'm actually just going to maybe stop recording.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop recording now.
And I'll be happy to answer next